guarantee faith, but our response to what we hear. What does the word says? Well, faith comes by hearing, and I need to change what I've been hearing. What do I need to hear? The word says, I can do all things. And so I need to hear that I can do all things. The word says, even though you are in a crisis, God says, because you love me, and because you've been called according to my, you know where I'm going, my purpose says all things are going to work together for good. It may appear like a disappointment, but a disappointment is an appointment for something great. You lost the job, but that's all right. You lost your car, but that's all right. You didn't get the promotion, but that's all right. You didn't get the job, but it's all good, because God says all things is going to work together. But you got to have faith that it's going to do, because if you don't have faith to believe it, you will be downcast when disappointment comes. But you got to be able to celebrate in the midst of disappointment and say, it is because God gets something greater in store for my. So the believer must move out in faith and trust God and believe that God would uphold him and sustain him and keep him even in the midst of trial and tribulation. As the believer perseveres in faith, the believer must have faith in God's power, in God's ability to protect, to provide, and in God's ability to perform all the possibilities that are around him. It was Abraham's wife Sarah, through faith, who also, it says in the text, Hebrews 11, verse 11, through faith, Sarah also herself received strength. It was through what? Faith. To conceive a seed. You need faith to get the seed. And was delivered of a child when she was past age. The doctor said, can't happen. But she had faith and she got a seed. Because what? She judged him faithful who had promised. Faith produces a seed. Many today have a seed. They have a dream. They have a vision. They have a seed. Persevering in faith produced the child. Sarah got faith. She got the seed. But then she persevered in faith and she got the child. Because she had faith and she trusted him to be faithful. You got to know that God is faithful. Hence, the believer have faith that God will do all that he has promised to do in and through his life. So the believer begins in faith, perseveres in faith, but then the believer ends in faith. Paul says, for I am now ready to be offered up, and the time of my departure is at hand. I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Henceforth, there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day, and not to me only, but unto all them that love his appearing. Paul said, I went through thick and thin. I went through it all. I was shipwrecked. I was beaten. I was bruised. I went through all the various difficulties and trials of life. He says, but I kept the faith. I was knocked down, but I kept the faith. And because I kept the faith, there is a reward that awaits me over in glory land. And so the believer must keep his faith. His faith must be anchored in the person of Jesus Christ, who is the believer's protector, who is the believer's preserver, who is the believer's parent, his preparer, his power, his provider, and his personal friend. Some call him the creative word. Some call him wonderful counselor. Some say he's the rose of Sharon. Some call him the wheel in the middle of the wheel. Some call him the good shepherd, the repairer of the breaches, the bridge over troubled water. And so the believer must have faith in this bridge. And yes, some call him all of these different stuff, but when I need him, I like to call him Jesus. And so I got my faith in Jesus, for I believe that he's able to take me through. He's the sinner's savior, the suffering servant, the sinless lamb, the sovereign Lord. He's the supreme being. He's the healer of the soul. He's the greatest personality of the past, the present, and the future. He's the wisest of the wisest. He stands above all anthropological ideologies of every time. He is the wellspring